A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Man Up. This is where the men sit down and have serious discussions about issues that affect men. My name is James Okumu. Asante Sana. All the men, pull your stools and your sofa sets next to the TV because we have a very pertinent discussion we want to get into today. We've been doing a series on the principled man. Today we talk about sex and porn addiction. This is something that is not new. It's been there for ages, but it seems like in this day and age, it's more intensified. People are talking about it openly. In some quarters, it's even acceptable. What can we learn? What are the dangers? What can we do? Those are some of the things we need to talk about tonight on the show. I've got two men of God. Today, I'm covered by the blood. I've got Pastor Damon Shunette, pastor at Rain City, Nairobi.
Yes, sir.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good to have you.
It's exciting to be here. It's very exciting to be in this space, surrounded by bearded men. Yes, I'm excited.
I think by the time we are done, your beard will start.
Amen. I receive. Amen. I have to.
Awesome. I also have Pastor Curtis Reed with me. Pastor Curtis Reed is a youth pastor at Harvesters Global Church. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, J-Mo.
It's good to have you, man.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I thought my beard was bigger.
Yeah. Keep living right. You'll get there.
Oh my goodness, sex and porn addiction. This is a huge one.
Yeah.
Back in the day, this was one of those things that was a problem for men, but in this generation, it's not just a problem for men, it's a problem for both men and women.
Yeah. That's right.
And I'm just thinking, just the other day, I think it was last week, there was an article in the newspapers, and this lady was saying, help, my husband prefers masturbation to intimacy. So we've gotten to a place where this is something that is discussed even in the open. In some quarters, it's acceptable. I don't know what your thoughts are on how this issue has progressed to where we are today.
First of all, I'd like to say that when we talk about porn addiction and talk about sex and talk about everything, there are two things that you should never talk about, especially in church. That is what I was told.
Oh, really?
I was told when you're in church, there are two topics. If you avoid, you'll be good. Number one is don't talk about money. Number two, don't talk about sex. Then you'll be good.
Oh, really?
It was just a fun conversation that someone was telling me. These are difficult things that you need to tackle. But particularly because, especially in our generation, I don't know about because I feel like I'm way younger than the guys who are seated here. But in our generation, when we were growing up, we were the generation of borrowing CDs from neighbors. Oh. So you have this neighbor who has discovered there is a pornographic CD somewhere. And then you begin sharing that CD among guys. And so you'd even have a group of men coming together to just sit down and watch porn. That was the environment that my generation grew up in, and most people have those stories. And then it evolved to the point where now you have a smartphone in your pocket. So now the porn is not something that you're going to look for. Sex is not something that you're going to look for, make a relationship fast, and then you like get all those things. Now you have it, you have access to it on your phone, and you don't even have to look for it. It is suggested to you. And then it evolved to where the whole culture now became a culture of sex. So you will notice that everything now is measured according to the standard of sex. So you can look smart, but as long as you're not sexy, you don't look that good. So you'll find the pursuit of people has become, I want to look sexy. So you'd get a car, and if the car is beautiful, the measure that it will be used, someone will tell you that car is very sexy. Then we move to advertising, where marketers will tell you that if you want to sell a product, use sex to advertise it. Then you get on social media, and you begin to see that if you have a sexual element in your post, it is boosted by the algorithm. So now sex becomes even saturated in your atmosphere. So you wake up in the morning, by the time you get to the office, you've encountered sex in different formats. Because when we were younger, I used to remember we were told, don't read certain magazines, that is porn. But right now, it's normal, because they were saying it's soft porn. But you will notice that now we have that soft porn everywhere you go. So you'll have, you'll have it on billboards, you'll have it on advertisements, you will have it everywhere on social media. So you will see it perpetually, and you wonder by evening, why are you thinking about sex? But all throughout the day, you were just being bombarded by these sexual images and pictures along the way. So it becomes very difficult for you to be able to to be able to live right.
Soon enough, you start sending messages to the rest of us. My account has been hacked.
Exactly.
You know those messages of my account has been hacked.
Yeah.
Curtis, I'm just wondering because I know you. This is a subject. I've even had a discussion with you on a. I think it was on this show, one of the earlier seasons, and we had a discussion about this.
Correct.
But I'm just wondering from your perspective, because you also deal with a lot of youth. You know, there's something he said that I have noticed that from our generation was termed as softcore pornography is now easily accessible everywhere and it is acceptable. And I keep wondering, what's the danger of that?
Great. I want to respond to the article you referred to. I didn't read it, but a couple of points I want to make. Number one, the lady who is struggling with her husband who doesn't want to be intimate with her, even though they're married. This is what I'm telling young people constantly, because many young people, especially young men, think that they're struggling with pornography and they're struggling with masturbation because they're single and want to maintain a celibate lifestyle.
Yes.
But pornography and masturbation, and let's be honest, they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
They don't go away just because somebody put a ring on it. This is behavior, this is lifestyle, this is addiction. And addictions don't go away just because a person is married. Number one, because sexual dysfunction and sexual addiction primarily is not about sex. It's about underlying issues.
I think that's important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about underlying issues. So you know me by now. You know I want to talk about powers and principalities and systems. So ultimately that's where we have to go. But the scripture does talk about the nature of our eyes.
Yes.
And they are constantly looking for more. They're never satisfied. So it's this insatiable thing that once you go into a certain direction, that direction becomes a rabbit hole. And then, you know, looking at things, whether it's on TikTok or other media platforms, just becomes something that's completely out of control.
I like something he said, and I don't know if it's something you deal with also when you're having conversations. There's that deceit and that lie that people have taken that, you know what? In fact, I've even heard in Christian circles where somebody said, I'd rather watch porn and masturbate than cheat. Like, excuse me? What are you saying? You know, so people are looking at this as, let me sort myself out. You know, I'm still pure. I haven't slept with anybody. I don't know what you think of that kind of thinking.
I think the key word is even in what you said. Let me sort myself.
Yes.
So self is the problem. Because you see, the Bible says in the book of James that God doesn't tempt people with evil. But each man is tempted when he's enticed by their own desires. So what I want us to understand, first of all, is that sex is God's idea. And in the form that God created it to be, it's pure, and it's even an act of worship. Because it comes with intimacy. It comes with, first of all, commitment and intimacy. And trust is built in between. So now the problem is, now you see, like in the, when God created sex, he created it in the garden, in the context of one man and his wife, and his wife. And it was this man discovering his wife who was pure. You understand? And the man is pure. So both of them begin to form that intimacy journey, and they start that journey together and they walk together. Now the problem is the devil wants to take something that God has created in its purity form and pervert it and present it to us. Now the problem that we have is that we have a lot of people who love God, but sadly the form of sex that they were introduced to was the perverted form of sex, which is found in pornography. Because pornography is not real sex. It is people acting. There is no intimacy connected to that. And when you have sexual behavior without intimacy, I want to even talk about what he was saying, principalities and powers, is you are interacting with this person, but you are not connected to this person. So who are you being intimate with? You're being intimate with a spirit. You understand? You're being intimate with it's the evil nature, your evil desire.
Yeah.
So you have no intimacy, no commitment, no connection to this person. So you're just giving yourself over to that desire. So it looks like it is something that will help you, but it's not, because it's damaging you. You're introducing yourself into the things of God, but in its perverted form. So now what happens when now you get in the context of God and the only thing that you know is perverted?
Yes.
So now you want to also pervert this person that God has given you and the union that you have. So that's the danger of what he was saying. I believe that all of us need to be very careful and understand that sin is sin, whichever way it's presented.
Yeah.
And that's why Jesus said that if you look at a person lustfully, you have committed sin with them. Because the question is not the act. The act is not the problem. It is the heart of the man. So your heart is what we need to check. So why are you going to porn to say that you need to be pure?
Yeah.
But already if you look at that person and you desire to have sex with them, it's like God saying, okay, so now it means if this person was here with you, this is what you would have done. So there is no difference between you and a person who is fornicating and living a wild life. You understand? Yeah. So, and then another danger is that people think that pornography is safe.
Yes.
It's safer than sleeping with someone that I don't know.
Yeah.
But what is safe? I think we need to define that. What is safety? Because the most important thing in your life is your spirit and your soul. And that's why we go to win souls. So when the Bible says that when you get into sexual sin, you're not only sinning against God, you're sinning against yourself.
Yes, right.
Your own body. So now we are introducing things into our bodies, and that's why you have people who are so damaged, because the more you go into porn, you never get satisfied. And as a matter of fact, there was an article that I was reading about porn addiction, and they were saying that when someone gets into porn addiction, they actually become weaker, they start becoming depressed, they start having low self-esteem, they start looking at, like, it has effects and things that damage your soul. Simply because if you gravitate towards anything that God did not create, your body will naturally gravitate towards death, and that's what the Bible says.
I think the other thing, Pastor Kat, is that for me is a major concern, is we have a lot of information out here. And I've even seen articles online, social media, you know, people talking about the benefits of masturbation. You know, and they'll come and say it's not wrong, it helps in this way and this way and this way, and all this information is out here. And you find there are those people who read that kind of information, and because it justifies what they're doing, then they're okay with it. I'm just wondering, for us in the church, trying to raise up the next generation of men, or even trying to walk with the now generation of men, how do we counter such information? Because it's everywhere. It's out there.
How much time do we have, J-Mo?
We can do a kesha.
I think we need to be honest. And if we're honest, then we have to admit that there is something temporarily beneficial to masturbation. That's why people do it. We do things for a reason.
Yeah.
There is a payoff to masturbation. It takes the edge off. It takes away temporarily anxiety or boredom or whatever other form of pain that we're experiencing. All addictions do that.
Yeah.
The problem with it is, again, it takes on a life of its own and becomes a bigger problem than the problem we were trying to cover up in the very first place.
Yes.
So we have to be honest about that. And then as we keep going, then I think what we can do if we're keen and if we're honest, because I think as pastors, and all of us are pastors, we have to lead with our own brokenness.
Yes.
And the reason why I'm on this show is because this is personal for me. This is my own life story.
Yeah.
It's not abstract.
Yeah.
And so I'm not talking pure theology. It's connected to real life human beings.
Yeah.
So we lead with that. We start with that, and we talk about what the massive, horrific devastation that occurs through pornography. I don't think pornography is the key issue. I think what pornography does more than anything, it taps into the deep recesses within us, like you mentioned. The desires are within us.
Yeah.
Pornography is simply making billions and billions of dollars every year, tapping into our own dysfunction. Yeah.
We are talking about addiction, porn addiction Sex addiction on Man Up tonight. This is an issue that sometimes a lot of people suffer silently. They don't know where to go. They're embarrassed, they're ashamed. If what we are talking about connects with you tonight, I'm here to let you know, and we're here to let you know that, you know what, there's a way out. With God, there's always a way out. That is why Jesus came. And so you can text in on 20316 for SMS, WhatsApp 0786 316 316, and let us know if this is your struggle, or maybe this was your struggle and God helped you to overcome. How was that journey for you? Because your journey can be an encouragement to somebody else who's currently struggling. As always, I'm giving you a minute. Go grab a cup of water. You know, this is a hot topic. Maybe you need to go wash your head and then come back for the second part as we continue with this discussion.
Tomorrow on Youth on the Move.
Jesus love me.
I'm Peter Kenyanjui. I do make puppets and costumes.
Bend at the elbows and come all the way down. My name is Maria Sarah Nunga. I've been doing yoga for 6 years. I've been teaching for 3.5 years.
That's tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. on Youth on the Move.
Welcome back to Man Up. We are continuing with our series on the principled man. Today we talk about sex and porn addiction. I'm hanging out with two pastors, Pastor Damon Chunette and Pastor Curtis Reed. Like I said, once again, if this is the struggle in your life, please let us know via our numbers on the screen, because help is always available. It is always available. Is there a solution to this problem, or is this something that we will keep battling with until Jesus comes back?
I do think there's a solution.
Okay.
But it's not a formula. There's no quick fix. There's no, take these 3 steps and you'll be porn free for life. I think that's just more deception.
Yes.
And many people are trying those methods, and then when they don't work,
they get frustrated.
They get frustrated. They get frustrated at themselves, and then now they're getting frustrated with God, because we've been told to slap a Bible verse on our issues, and when that doesn't work, whose problem is that? It's God's problem now.
It is. It is. There's something you said earlier. Maybe we need to go back to that before we can look at solutions. You said porn is not the problem. There are deeper underlying issues.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, thank you for going there, because I actually think that's one of the ways we get free.
Okay.
I'll tell you what helped me. I was told to start journaling. And I want to suggest to those who are struggling out there to start journaling. You can even create what we call a desire journal.
Yeah.
What turns you on? What do you actually long for?
Yeah.
And what are you feeling when you are most tempted? If you can write those down, over a period of time, a pattern will emerge in your writing.
Yeah.
And you can begin to discover that, wait a minute, the underlying issue actually isn't sex, it's anxiety, or it's shame. And so actually what's happening is I'm being triggered with those fundamental emotions, and it's acting itself out in the desire to masturbate or the desire to watch pornography. What that does is it gives us a chance to identify what the actual problem is.
Yeah.
We can't treat what we can't identify.
Very true.
So that's number one.
Okay.
And the second thing I'm going to say is going to sound counterintuitive to many people.
Yes.
Where's the camera? Be kind to yourself. Stop judging yourself. Take care of yourself. And the reason why this is so important is because addiction has to do with pain.
Yeah.
And so what happens is I feel pain, and then I feel the desire to masturbate or watch pornography. And once that desire is fulfilled, then I actually feel guilt and remorse for what I just did.
Yeah.
And so now I'm experiencing even more pain.
Exactly.
And so what do I do with that pain? I masturbate again. So that's the vicious cycle. We start to address that cycle in terms of dismantling its power when we begin to treat ourselves better. Get curious about your struggle. Stop judging it so much. Get curious and get data. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for data.
Yeah.
You're trying to understand who you are and why you do the things that you do.
What about, how do we deal with, there's certain stereotypes where men are concerned. You know, it's like the more sexually active you are, the more a man you are. You know, the more you can watch these kind of things, the more of a, you know, you're a man's man. And sometimes I find that men get such conflicting messages that you get lost in the midst of those. You know, from one perspective, society is applauding you if you do this, but then they're still criticizing you. Why are you doing such kind of things? How do we reconcile the two?
One of the things that I always tell people is that God is always right and God is always for you. That's what I always say. The commandments that God gives us are not for God, they are for us. So when God tells you do not steal, it's not for God, it's for you. Because if you steal, then you get beaten by mob justice, you will die. It's not on God. So it is the same thing even concerning things like our sexuality. God's prescription, God is always right. And what he prescribes to us is always for us, it's not for him. And so the problem is, what I was saying in the beginning, is that we have been introduced to sex in its perverted form. And we actually get to a point where we believe that is how it's going to work. But research shows that the more you masturbate, when you get married, it is difficult for you to even satisfy your wife. Because the way you have been introduced to sex, you have been desensitized from the normal functionality of sex. That's why I will say porn is not real sex, because it is perverted, so it desensitizes you from what is normal. It's like the more you keep enjoying, you're introduced to one thing, then you're introduced to other thing, and it continues to you know, damage your perspective and your sensitivity to even sex and relationships. So first, I'd say that you need to understand that that is a lie. Masturbating doesn't make you a better man. Especially when it comes to even sex. You don't become a better person in sex because you've been practicing. In fact, you become weaker because of how the damage, what he was saying, the underlying issues that you keep burying and you keep hiding. So if you're using that as a way to escape, then that is not life, it's not freedom. To the first question that you asked about how we can overcome, I'll give this three things. The first one is personal responsibility, what he was saying about loving yourself and understanding that you need to take care of yourself and you need to value yourself and find a way to become free from everything that follows you. Because some of us go through issues as men that we didn't choose. Because some of us were molested when we were young. We were introduced to things when we were young by the people who were supposed to protect us. We didn't know that those things would have an impact in our life in the future. It is your responsibility. It was not your fault that happened to you, but it is your responsibility to get better. That is personal responsibility. The second thing I'll talk about is social responsibility. And social responsibility in the sense that when you watch porn, you're creating a demand for it. And if you're creating a demand for it, there will always be supply. And I want you to understand that behind those cameras and behind those videos are normal people who are broken as well. So what you're doing is you're creating a demand for more people who are broken and people who are in slavery and people who've been taken against their will and put in those positions. You're creating a demand for that kind of content. And the more you create a demand for it, the more it will continue to happen. So as a man, first of all, not even as a believer, as a man and as a human being, you have a social responsibility to stop that demand so that we can try to at least save and minimize the number of people behind the camera. And number three, I'd say, is your spiritual and your personal identity. That you need to understand that what you are struggling with is not who you are. That's not your identity. You are better than that. You can be free. You can come out. So you need to keep reaffirming and reassuring yourself that even when you struggle and you fall again, and when you say, because I believe every person who has had an addiction, everyone has gotten to a point where they say in their lives, I am stopping this, I'll never do this again. But then what happens is when you find yourself that you've done it again, someone could have even started the process and gone, like, say, even a month or 2 months without it. And then they relapse once and then they give up. So what I'm here to tell you is don't give up. Keep trying again. Just keep on trying. Pick yourself up again and start again the process and keep trying. The more you keep on trying and the more you keep on reaffirming yourself and speaking your personal identity to yourself, the more you will be able to get free.
What can the church do? Because sometimes I find these are difficult conversations. We don't know how to navigate through them. But what can the church do to help those who are struggling in this area?
Yeah. I think, first of all, let me say, I think the church, generally speaking, as an institution, is part of the problem.
Oh.
Because we're not having these discussions. And even when we are having the discussions have to do about shame-based sexuality, which is, again, part of the problem. And one of the things the church has to do is begin to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Tell the truth about ourselves. As pastors, I think we should be leading in this conversation. And then allowing congregants to tell their own stories without judgment, without condemnation, and without fear. And once we've done that, we begin to create communities whereby we can be mutually accountable to each other.
Yes.
That's part of it. And then we have to begin to challenge these larger systems that make it so difficult for us to live godly lives. We have to speak to them. We have to be prophetic, in other words.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any thoughts to the church?
Yeah, I think I share sentiments with him. Because me, when I got married, the church didn't tell me how I was supposed to make love to my wife. And since I was young, we were being told not to have sex. So now, what are we supposed to do? You understand? Like, sexual conversations are things that are supposed to be had in the context of the church. Because if you're not having that conversation in the context of the church, you will hear that conversation from other platforms. You understand? So, so I believe having those conversations and creating safe environments for people, because that is what the church is. In our church, our mission is to create an environment for people to grow in the things of God as they have dominion in every sphere of their lives. The key word is environment. Because the environment you put yourself in can bring out things in you that you didn't even know existed. So when you put yourself in that environment, we allow people to be in that environment in a way it is safe for you. So in our church, I usually say, let the lesbians come, let the homosexuals come. They are coming into an environment, and that environment is powerful. It will change them. The environment will bring the change. So it's creating a safe environment where someone can come and share their struggles and not feel judged.
Awesome.
Where someone can come and be open and they're not going to be removed from serving. You understand? Yeah.
Gentlemen, unfortunately, our time is up.
Oh, no case.
I was telling the producer we need a whole month, continuous, having this discussion, because there's lots of things we need to talk about. But when we do put together part 2, I'll definitely look out for you guys. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
My pastor once told me that whatever you allow, you will eventually accept. It's the little foxes that spoil the vine, and sometimes we are very careless. Especially parents, what kind of videos are your children watching? What kind of music videos are playing in your house? You know, a little bit of nudity here and there, you know, curse words here and there. They've become okay, they've become normal, but they're not normal. Because it's a seed you're planting in your children. It's a seed you're planting in yourself. We have to be very brutal when it comes to matters, sexuality, and staying pure. Joseph did not bargain with Potiphar's wife. He took off. And we have to be that lethal when it comes to sexual temptation. Well, that's all the time we have. Remember, once again, if this is an issue you're struggling with, accountability, say something. 20316 SMS line, WhatsApp number 0786 316 316. Until next week, have yourselves a great night.